Hello, everybody. Chris Hamlin here with the International Organization of Black Security Executives. And we are super, super excited because we got an amazing conversation for you today.
Hello, I am Alexandria Hampton. We are both with IOBSE Communications Committee. This month, we are talking about mental health awareness. Here are some staggering facts. Number one, more than 50 million Americans struggle with mental illness. 1 in 5 young people ages 13 to 18 have or will develop a mental illness in their lifetime. Youth depression rates have also risen from 12.9% to 25.2% from the pre-pandemic to 2021. Most people with mental illness or mental issue are generally nonviolent. In fact, only 3 to 5 of violent acts can be attributed to people with a serious mental illness. Lastly, but not least, most people living with mental illness lead productive lives despite their challenges.
Wow. Alex, those are some pretty interesting facts. But, the biggest thing that I heard or that I heard you share is that mental illness doesn't have a look. Anyone dealing with internal issues can still appear to can be completely normal throughout anything and everything that we see with them each and every day.
Absolutely, Chris. You're absolutely right. So let's explore this topic some more. Today, we have invited IOBSC board member and IOBSC Student Education Committee leader, Chrisonda Williams, better known as my friend Kay. She's in the studio with us. Kay, how are you today, my friend?
I'm well. How are y'all doing this morning?
We're good. Thank
We are
you.
so good, and we are so excited. We've been kicking it around in the studio even before we went live here, but really just having some fun and kind of talking or starting to have this conversation about mental health awareness. So, Kay, I personally, let me ask you, why is this topic so important to you?
It's important to me because I think specifically within the Black community, we don't talk about it enough. I didn't really know that I had anxiety disorder until I was going through some of my psychology classes in college. And that's when they're saying, like, you have this, that's, yep, okay, yep. Panic attacks look like this, okay. And so it was like, I have an anxiety disorder. So I think it's super important because there are so many people who are either ashamed or just don't know about some of the things that come with mental illnesses, and then how to actively and proactively ensure that we're taking care of them.
Wow.
That's that's awesome. So, in your opinion, what does mental illness look like?
I don't know if it's a look. I think it varies from person to person. With my anxiety disorder, sometimes I get panic attacks, sometimes I don't. I don't think there's one look, and I think that's one of the stigmas that we have to break. That it looks like one certain way for each specific mental illness, because it doesn't. There are some things that come with the anxiety disorder that I've never experienced, and so I don't know if we should look at it as a one lane because it's so different from person to person, from illness to illness. There's several different factors that can make it completely different from each case that you come by.
Wow. So without it being a specific look, anybody could be suffering from any level of different mental illnesses that are out there. What are some triggers? And I know you're talking personally for yourself, but what are some triggers that we could be looking for internally with ourselves or with people that we love and care about?
Yeah, I think I think just stress is a big trigger. I know that I get super anxious when I have a lot on my plate, when I'm trying to figure out just life in general, plus work, plus like if my plate is just running, my cup is runneth over. That's when I have. I'm sorry, it's my screen just went black. So that's what I have. I just some of those triggers that come, and so I think that you just have to know and know yourself to know what is triggering, and then how to cope with those triggers. There's coping mechanisms that I do when I feel triggered, and I think that's the important piece when we talk about triggers is knowing those coping mechanisms to help resolve the trigger.
That's awesome. So now that we got a baseline of triggers, and I know Kay, you and I talk about this often, but what should we do if we notice someone or even ourselves like having a shift in their mental status?
Yeah, I think that's super important, Alex. I think that as a leader, I have to understand and know my team well enough to know when they are triggered, or when I see something that has triggered them, either from what I've done or anybody else within the organization have done. And so it's important to make sure that we're talking about it. I think people are, and I'll speak for myself too. I was so scared about mental illnesses or me specifically having a mental illness for fear of being shunned or to think that I couldn't do my job or just to think that you're crazy. Like that's a stigma that comes with it. And so I think the more that people are talking about it, the more that people will understand their triggers and the more people will get comfortable understanding that they too may have a mental illness and it's okay. Everybody exists with them and people have been led productive lives and it's okay. Like there's just things that you do to take care of it and understand that it's not a career ender, a life ender, or anything of the sort.
Got it. Good nuggets there. Thinking back, Kay, and the last couple of years have been really testing on a lot of people, whether you had mental illnesses or concerns before. It pushed people into those different realms and different things like that. What's your personal feeling on how the pandemic, and maybe even coupled with some of the microeconomic situations that we've seen across the industry lately. How do you think these things coupled together over the last couple of years have contributed to the increase of persons being triggered with mental illness?
Yeah. I think the pandemic was a huge trigger. I think the pandemic had people recognize that they did have mental illnesses because, especially during lockdown, and I know for myself, I was in a city by myself. You just didn't know. It was so much uncertainty that was triggering alone. And so I was probably not in the best mental state. I was really trying to cope and do my coping mechanisms, but I wasn't in the best mental state, especially during lockdown because of just the uncertainty. And I think with anxiety, that's what triggers anxiety, uncertainty and not knowing and not understanding. And so I think that really shined a light on mental illnesses and it probably let people know that they were dealing with something before even the pandemic started. And so I think that, that goes with the economy now. And I try to be forgiving to just some of the actions that people do, because one, we went through a pandemic. We've had several life-changing seasons within my 43 years on this earth. And so that was a season that was just so life-changing. And then that sparked a whole of the economic issues within the country. And I think that we have to be forgiving to some people. They may have to be forced into situations that they've never been forced into. And so, I think that we really have to take a look at ourselves and each other to not be so judgy or, less forgiving because of what just people are going through mentally. And I think that, again, the pandemic shined a light on and uncovered a lot of stuff with mental illnesses during that time.
That's awesome. And so, Kat, I know since you're my friend, I know you do some personal I know you do some personal coping strategies, but for people out there who are struggling with mental illness and who may not even know if they have triggers, what are some things that or what are some coping strategies that they can use with their triggers or to help?
Yeah, I when I initially got diagnosed with anxiety disorder, I was on 5 medicines. It was Zoloft for depression. There were some things, just a mood stabilizer. I don't know the specific names of all of them, but it was making me gain weight. It gave me all these different side effects that I did not like. And so I chose the non-medicine route. And so I had a friend that at a company that I previously worked for was really big into meditation. And so meditation is one of my coping mechanisms. And it's something that I have to start my day with in order to be effective for the day. And so at work, my team and my partners, they know, don't call me before 9 o'clock because that is the time before 9 is my time to get my mind right, to get my meditation, to ensure that I am mentally ready for the day. And so meditation is a key component to my mental health journey. Journaling is a big component to my mental health because that allows me to talk through and write out my triggers. And so if I need to go back and see, what, I'm feeling kind of weird. Did I feel the same way last Monday? I can go back and reference back to that's a trigger. So I had this same trigger last Monday. So it helps me figure those triggers out. And then just really being vulnerable. I think that that's a really big component to me, really helping my journey is talking about it. I think the education piece is big for me because I didn't have that. I don't know if my family, my parents knew about like mental illnesses, and none of my friends did. And it's so funny because after I was diagnosed with anxiety disorder, like 4 of my friends was like, "Oh yeah, Kay, like I've been, taking the medicine for a while." And I'm like, "You didn't even tell anybody. Like we could have helped each other through this journey, like so." It's super important for me to be vulnerable and consistently talk about it. So it gives people the avenue and the route to be comfortable talking about it themselves, and then we can help each other. I think it's super important that we help each other figure out, like, if something worked for me, I'm going to always tell somebody that because it may work for them as well. And it may not, but we can continue to share until it does.
Got it. I was going to ask you to tell us a little bit about how you keep yourself mentally balanced, but you shared that. What I will say though is how did you identify like meditation was
Yeah.
your thing and different rhythms that you were able to put into your daily habits? How did you identify that, just for anybody that might be saying, "Hey, this is me.
Yeah.
This is what I'm dealing with. What can I do to help myself holistically to be able to overcome some of the triggers?"
Yeah, I was fortunate. Like I've had, medicine, I X that out. Meditation work, journaling work. If you don't want to go the medicine route, it's a trial and error. Like you have to just try a lot of stuff before the stuff works for you. And I tried, yoga. I tried to do yoga. My flexibility is not as where it was when I was in high school. So, that just didn't work for me. And so like I went through a few things before meditation just to see like what is going to work for me. And initially with meditation, people think that it's to clear your thoughts and then to not think about anything. And that's totally not what it was. It's to live with your thoughts and understand and know how to really not let it impact you in certain ways. And so once I figured that out, because meditation was hard for me, I feel like I have adult ADHD a little bit. And so to just sit there, like be silent and hymn and chant, it was a little tough for me. But once I was bought into it and I saw like, oh, you know what? I feel like light. Like I feel like just like lifted. That's when I was like, you know what? This is working. I did this before work, like for a trial period. And I was like, I feel so like balanced. I go into work, what's up, y'all? Like, what we doing? And it made me feel balanced for the day. And so like that's my journey. So I would say, like, if anybody is looking for what works for them, it's probably going to be, 2, 3, 4, 5 things that you're going to have to try before you figure out that one thing or those couple of things that are going to help you with your mental health journey.
That's awesome. So we're going to take a step into the personal side a little bit. And we know that you have a very, very demanding role as a security professional, and you cover a pretty large area across several states. So we want to know, how do you keep a healthy work-life balance?
Yeah. Again, it's that don't call me before 9 o'clock method that I've had for years. I mean, the last 3 companies, that was my thing. And it's, again, to get ready for the day and all that comes with being a loss prevention professional. It is, a priority. Another thing is that I'm really big into my off time is my off time. Like I can't live, breathe, and work by this phone every single hour and minute of the day. And so I'm very clear with, and I think, and I'll show you this book that I have because this is kind of working into it. It is Set Boundaries, Find Peace, A Guide to Reclaiming Yourself by Nedra Glover Tawwab. And it's basically, I started this probably like 2 years ago. But this has been really like my part of my mental health journey since diagnosed with anxiety disorder. And it's just setting those boundaries. That 9 o'clock, my partners do not call me before 9 o'clock. And that's a boundary that I have to have in order to be effective for the day. My weekends, unless a store is on fire or we have a robbery or somebody is critically injured, like it can wait until Monday, And so like, it's just really setting those boundaries with your partners, with your family, with work people, and just making sure that you're consistent with it. Because that one time that you break answering that phone before 9 o'clock, they're going to think it's an avenue that's open for you to call me before 9 o'clock. And so you have to be consistent and you have to be aware. And we deal with a lot of stuff in loss prevention and the security industry. And I work in mall environments, and my stores are locking down way more than I've ever seen being in a mall environment. And it's mostly when they lock down, it's a confirmed significant incident that has happened in the mall. And I try to make sure, because I'm not directly handling it, the people on my team are directly handling it, but I make sure that after we do like the post recap, the post incident recap, that I'm always checking on their mental health. I have another young lady on my team that suffers from anxiety. I always have to make sure that I'm checking in on her when she's dealing with these significant incidents, because she can't be right for the business if her mind's not right for her. And so that's a key component for me to make sure that when we have such significant incident, I had a young lady that, had a knife pulled on her by making an apprehension. It's super important me to follow up with her to see how she is mentally. Now she can say I'm okay, but I look for things that indicate that she's not outside of the words. And so I think it's important for leaders to go beyond the, oh, I'm okay, to see if there's any nonverbals or verbals that they're expressing that show that they're not. And I think within the security industry, that's how we make sure that we keep a consistent mental state, because we deal with the worst of the worst in some cases.
Yeah, I think Krishanda, you really kind of nailed a key point there, and it was, we've been talking a lot through this conversation about how do you look at yourself, how do you self-examine and identify where you have mental concerns, or you
Mhm.
start to see signs of mental illness that you might see in yourself. But I think that pivot point that you just really hit on was about as a leader. So as a leader of teams, as a leader of
Yeah.
people, how important it is to really kind of be that person that says, look, this person isn't just a number. This person is just not a individual contributor on my team, but this is a person that together we are successful. And
Yeah.
without them, we're not successful. So as their leader, I have to be able to identify where I see concerns, not crossing the line into their personal space, but just saying, hey, it's okay to be not okay. And,
Yeah.
and, and let's work through it.
Yeah, Chris,
Absolutely.
and I think that's huge with leadership. And I think the best leaders who see their people as humans first,
Yeah.
like that's super important to
Yes.
me. I see you as a human first before I see you as an associate. Those are the ones that work 10 times harder for you. Like if you care about them, you care about their mental health. We know we deal with some of the worst incidents that can happen in our stores. And like I don't know if there's anything that's written in SOP or anything to say, hey, you know what? We have all these resources for associates that were directly in the store, but what about the leaders who dealt with the associates in the store? And it's funny, like me and my leader were just speaking about this, like how do we make sure that we have, leadership are going through some of these same things that we go for the associates, because we deal with all of it, and I just have a small bucket of stores for the company. And how can we make sure that the leaders supporting those stores are mentally okay after seeing so much devastation, just a lot of bad stuff that happens within those stores. So that's my journey and my goal for this year is like, how do we support leaders mental health and give them some training on how to cope and maintain and understand those triggers. And during that, like with dealing with so much, I think it's kind of similar to HR kind of has the worst of the worst,
Yeah.
that comes to them. And so AP and HR, like how do we make sure that these people are like mentally able to deal with all they deal with, and then looking beyond the I'm okay to make sure that they're truly okay. Because I think again, it's that stigma to bringing it to work, or bringing your problems to work by saying that you're not okay. It's not that at all. And I think we have to break that stigma, to ensure that people are okay telling us they're okay, and we're okay accepting that. I think that's the biggest piece, the leaders truly understanding that people are not going to be okay sometimes, and we have to understand that and give them the space to make sure that they get together to be okay.
Absolutely. So, Kay, first off, we want to just say thank you. Thank you so much for being transparent, but also being vulnerable during this chat. It was very deep, but super insightful. And so, on behalf of obviously IOBSC, we wanted to say thank you for just being able to share, because we know mental health is something that matters. It's real, and it's clear from our discussion that mental illness It has no look, and anyone can be dealing with internal triggers and operating fully functional in any capacity. So we truly, truly want to just say thank you.
Yep, absolutely. It's my passion. It goes beyond just the month of May as well for me. So
Absolutely.
Yeah, before we get out of here, I just wanted to go back. I just wanted to say you said something earlier. You were talking about flexibility and yoga. Now I've seen when music comes on, you can bust a move or two. So I won't even go there about the yoga years because I've seen some things. So
yeah. Like, I've been doing my stretches in the morning and the evening. So, I can tackle yoga now. Like my friend told me to try hot yoga,
uh,
which I tried, but they get up to like 115 degrees in there. And that was just too much for me. No, thank you. I think it's called Bikram or Bikram. I don't know how to officially pronounce it, but yeah, it's hot yoga, which is supposed to like loosen up your muscles while you're doing your stretching. But, I can't do 115. I'm from Texas. We did that growing up. I don't want to have to do that, for yoga.
nice, nice. Okay, we thank you so much. Any last or closing remarks before we wrap up here that you want to share with everybody out there?
Yeah, I would just say be kind to your mind. Like words matter. The thoughts you think, the words you speak. I'm a big proponent of like, words that you speak come to fruition and they're manifested. And so just be kind to your mind, making sure that, positive affirmations are coming out, positive thoughts are thought. And that's the way to really help your journey for a positive and a very complete mental space to where you're dealing with triggers on a consistent basis and knowing how to deal with them and you're coping and maintaining to get better.
Yeah, you guys heard it directly from Kay. She said, "Be kind to your mind." I love that. Be kind to your mind. Everybody out there, this Mental Health Awareness Month, that is the month of May, which is set up or designed to really kind of focus in on mental health awareness. And during this month, we challenge you all to examine yourselves and see how things are within your everyday life. We ask you to look at how they affect how your overall mental health actually is. Look around you, look within, look from your neighborhoods to your work environment, to even your genetics. There are many factors that come into play when it comes to your mental health. And you heard us talk about it earlier. It is okay not to be okay. However, the most important thing is seeking the appropriate resources to make changes, improve, and maintain your mental well-being. And if you feel yourself in a mental health crisis, or if you know someone who might be in a mental health crisis, please know that you're not alone. There are people that are ready and willing to help and support you. You matter. And there are many, many resources. And we're going to share a few here at the end. There are national resources that are open and available 24 hours a day for you to be able to reach out and have conversations and really, really touch individuals that want to help you through any situation that you have out there. So, on behalf of the IOBSE Communications Committee, Cassandra, we thank you so much for going through this journey with
Absolutely.
us. Alex, my super, super dope co host, super, super thankful to go through this again with you. And we will see you all again on the next IOB Spotlight